CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. With me today, I've got Greg Reffner, and we're going to be talking about, well, partly about his journey from SDR to CEO. And I don't know why that actually surprises us that somebody has actually done that, because I think it's quite reasonable. But we're going to talk about that and the skills that Greg has got to actually enable him to do that. So what we're trying to do is, share that out so other people can understand the sort of thing. If you're an SDR or you're on a journey from SDR and you don't want to be a CEO, Greg's going to explain to you what it is that you need to do part of that. It's part of that journey. I always ask this question first, Greg, because I like people to get their pitch in first, which is, where can people find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is a great place. Greg Reffner. My email is greg@abstrakt.ai. And then if anybody wants to pick up the phone and give me a call, 530-306-4078. Happy to talk with anybody about kind of how they might progress their career and kind of go on a similar journey.
And I think that's fantastic that you're willing to pass the baton on in terms of saying, I've had success. I want you guys and girls to have success as well. And these are the things you want to do. And so Abstrakt, as in terms of the company, that's the company that you're CEO of, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Correct.
Yeah, brilliant. So let's get in. So you started off as an SDR.
Yeah. Actually, started my career as an SDR. Coincidentally, the same day I started my career as an SDR is the same day I met my now wife. So it's really easy to remember how long I've been with my wife and or been in the tech space. So coming up on almost 9 years. And yeah, I started my career as an SDR at a company called Acton Software, which was at the time a competitor of like Marketo and HubSpot. Cold calling every single day, just grinding through a couple hundred dials a day is kind of how I got my career, started my career in the technology space.
And so, what did you learn? Because I know when I started my career, I started cold calling, and I don't think I'd ever used the phone before. And someone said, and it was the classic example that they gave me a printout and said, right, just ring that.
Yeah. So what I learned was that, and this is really no fault of my managers or anybody at the time, but what I learned was that if I was going to be reliant upon the enablement that the company was giving me, I wasn't going to be successful.
Right.
And so what I did was I would be at Starbucks every morning the moment they opened, and I would sit there and I'd watch webinars. I would request demos of competitors. I would read blog posts. And as an SDR, what I realized is I had to immerse myself in the world of my buyer, and I had to take ownership of learning the language of our buyer because it wasn't going to be given to me. And so that was something that I've kind of taken throughout my career, is like, don't count on anybody else to help make you successful. Like, you got to kind of take the bull by the horns. And especially as an SDR, like you have to immerse yourself in that world so that when somebody does answer the phone, you're using the language that they don't even know how to use, because you're a better marketer or better XYZ than they are currently.
I think that's a great advice. I quite often go onto Reddit. There's a sales group. I think there's like 100, 200,000 people that are part of it. And there's always salespeople saying, I'm an SDR, what do I do? And my answer always is, immerse yourself totally in whatever you're selling or whatever. You've got to be obsessive about it, because it's got to kind of come across on the phone. And I think some of the best calls I ever had were where, you would saying, well, I phoned this company and they said this, does that resonate with you? And they, oh yeah, it does, really. Yeah, it is. Like, and immediately, as soon as they say, yes, it does, you're their friend.
Yep. Absolutely. You have the meeting the moment you're a peer and you're no longer a sales rep.
Yeah. And understanding that, and I think that going on that journey, and the other thing that you said is about expectation. I've never wanted to be in a situation where I was having to in my description is outsource me achieving my number. I can't be reliant on, and I know this sounds really selfish. Unfortunately, kind of sales is and being successful, certainly when you start off being SDR, you have to be totally selfish about the fact that you are the only person that can make a number. And I know there's lots of people and resources that can help you, but you've got to be you're the CEO of your territory.
I mean, I think that's it goes the same in SDR, account executive. I think every job, like you look around LinkedIn right now and you see layoffs every day. And so, I mean, if you're trying to stand out as an SDR to either keep your job or to get a new one, right? You have to take ownership of the knowledge that you're going to acquire to continue to provide value at every step of the way. It's either with your current org or a new company. One of my favorite books is Extreme Ownership, written by Navy SEAL Jocko Willink, and it all talks about like, the moment you start kind of blaming other people, my enablement team, my manager, XYZ, right? You're passing the blame and you're relieving yourself of ownership and responsibility. And I think that you have to take that responsibility for your own success in every aspect of your career.
So there's other things that I always have, just for the audience, I always meet the person beforehand, and we not necessarily the day, but and we have a preparation session. And you said there was 4 things that came out that you learned in your career as an SDR. One was about and let's pick these off. So the first one is, so explain to me asking difficult questions. What do you mean by that?
Asking difficult questions. I think that is asking difficult questions of yourself. Are you ready to do this? Have you done everything you can to prepare for this? Asking difficult questions of your prospect or buyer. I think a lot of people aren't willing to place themselves in uncomfortable situations or make other people uncomfortable. And so you have to be willing to, ask yourself, hey, Tim, you are the CMO at DLA Ignite. Do you keep your job if you miss your revenue numbers this year? Right? Like it's a forward question, but and maybe that's not the exact question you would ask. But
I think it's fair. I think it's a fair question. I mean, for me, the Challenger Sale book, Brent Anderson, who's now become like a friend. For me, that was about it. You've got to go and ask difficult questions.
Correct.
I remember us going in and saying, "There's a long story. I was in Dubai and it was 40 degrees, and I said, why are all those tires outside that warehouse?" And the salesperson I was with said, "Don't ask stupid questions, Tim." And the customer said, "Actually, well, this is," and he explained what the business issue was. And then you could see all these lorries. It's like, and it was like, just that question opened up the whole of what the issue was. I was being told the issue was a warehousing issue. It wasn't a warehousing issue. And that's one of the things about just ask the question. And if someone says, don't ask stupid questions, that's actually what your job is.
I think so. And asking difficult questions of yourself, but also of your prospect, right? Don't just be okay, be inquisitive. I think some of the best salespeople are naturally inquisitive and know how to ask a question. And then the most important part after asking a difficult question is the pause after. Don't follow it up with a second question or keep talking.
Yes. Shut up.
Yep. Hit the mute button. Walk
away. Yeah. Pauses. I'm deliberately speaking with pauses now to emphasize. But pauses are so important when you speak. And shutting up. It's like, why are those tires out there? Shut up. And the salesman comes in and says, don't ask stupid questions. Shut up.
I still remember I was on a call and I asked a question, and my boss at the time, Michael Tomei, came up from behind me. And this was back when there was a hard phone on the desk. He hit mute on my phone. And he grabbed me and pulled me away from my desk. And I was like, what are you doing? And he was like, just wait. You're about to get the reason why he's going to buy your software. And it seemed like forever an awkward silence, but gave me everything I needed. I think we closed the deal the next day. Those awkward silences are where gold is hidden.
They are. So second thing, we kind of covered this because you got up every morning and went to Starbucks, was self-motivation.
Yep. Yeah. There's, I think there's 2 things you got to have as you're going through anything you do in your career. And that's pushes and pulls. You have to have kind of things that pull you to success, right? Like now it's my wife, my two boys, making sure they have the life they want. But then I also kind of have my pushes, I guess, people that have told me you can't do this or you're not good enough for this or whatever I was told in the past around you'll never be successful. I got told by an investor who I made a lot of money that I wasn't smart enough to start my own software company. And so there's, you kind of have to, I don't want to say have a chip on your shoulder, but you got to be willing to like get up and prove some people wrong every single day.
Yep. So next one, time management for the person that turned up late.
Yeah, time management. I think
just joking, Greg. Sorry.
You're killing me, Tim. I actually showed up. I guess if you're on time, you're late. That's my
You were on time, yes.
So I was late. Time management, I think, as an SDR specifically, and then I'll focus there just for a quick second. As an SDR, you have so many competing responsibilities. You have to be prospecting. You have to be paying attention to engagement in your content, your emails. You have to be actually dialing. You have to be consuming new content. And what I realized for myself, and this, some people might be able to multitask better than me, is that I couldn't do some of that during the day when I was actively doing my calling and emailing. And so what that meant for me was I had to add extra hours to my day. I had to add extra hours on the weekend. And that might not be the same for everybody. Some people may be able to do more in less time, but being conscious and aware of what you're good at and how well you can multitask and multitask effectively, because I know there's a lot of people that are so busy doing work and they don't ever actually get anything done. Being conscious and realistic with yourself around, can I make dials and the moment someone picks up the phone, immediately transition my thought process from reading a blog post about thought leadership around whatever it is to having that conversation. I wasn't able to do that. So I had to do all that content consumption, education, training outside of work hours. And so I think time management begins with being honest with yourself around what you're good at and what you're not.
For me, it's time blocking. I just block out time in my calendar. I've come on here, I switch Slack off because otherwise it's a distraction. There's people calling upon your time, and know my time is with you, Greg, and the audience. As a CEO of a small business, I still have to prospect. I block time out in my diary. And it's usually the Wednesday, Thursday of the week that I actually then block out the time, for the next week. And it's for me, it's crucial. The next one is curiosity.
Yeah. It's nowadays the example I use is be like my 2-year-old. What's that? What's that? Why? What's that? Why? It goes back to asking good questions and asking difficult questions. I think if you have I have 3 things that I look for in salespeople: intrinsic motivation, natural curiosity, and coachability. I think if you have natural curiosity and you are just somebody who questions everything you see around them, that lends itself really, really well to sales, to life, to basically everything in general, because you never just accept things at face value. You always kind of take a deeper level approach to it. Sometimes you realize what you were told was right. Sometimes you realize what you were told is wrong. For example, when we started Abstrakt, Tim, I went through 36 different development studios who all told me, no, we could not build Abstrakt. Right. Finally, when I got to the 37th one, when I was like, I'm curious about this company in Omaha, Nebraska. You keep digging and keep digging and keep digging and keep digging until you find what you're looking for. And I think that's part of being just naturally curious about the world and around you.
Because the product WD-40, is the 40th variant
iteration of it.
Iteration, and they say, you keep trying.
Keep
And,
trying.
and was it Thomas Edison that said, who designed the light bulb? Was it 1,000?
We found 999 ways that didn't work.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
agree with that. So you moved from SDR to an AE. What did you know? How did that happen, and why, and what did you learn there?
Yeah. So at the time, the company record from SDR to AE was 3 months, and I told Chris Hardman at the time, the VP of Sales, I said I want to beat that. And he said, well, do this, this, and this, book this number of amount of meetings, have this much pipeline generated, and we will move you into an account executive role. So I did that in 2.5 months. I met those metrics. And he was like, hey, we don't have an account executive role open yet. I was like, okay, well, that sucks. He's like, but we have an opening down in Australia. Like, you can cover Australian territory. And I was like, well, I'm not moving to Australia. And he was like, no. You will work Sunday through Thursday from 3 p.m. until midnight. And so I was like, done, take it. And so
amazing.
just took it. I was for 2.5 years, one of the top 5 AEs in the company out of a couple hundred AEs. I had my entire country, had an entire continent all to myself pretty much. And kind of the lesson learned there was don't shy away from like hard things. Yeah. Like if you see an opportunity, like, and it sounds hard, be okay being uncomfortable. Like, does it suck when everybody leaves at 5 o'clock and you're there for the next 7 hours in the office by yourself? Yeah, but I got really good at playing ping pong by myself. I got to ride a scooter everywhere around the office with no one telling me I couldn't do it. And I was able to, crush my goals because I had no competitive reps to battle over the territory with. So it all came back to just, let's try it. And I think for anybody listening, like, do that in everything you do. Like, if you see an opportunity, like, just take it and trust yourself that you'll figure it out.
I think Richard Branson said that as well, didn't he?
I don't know about Richard Branson. I'm a big fan of Les Brown.
Though you said it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think,
what an amazing opportunity and what an amazing 2 years. I mean, you must have learned an awful lot about Australia while you were doing that as well. But just not visiting it.
Yeah. Learned a lot about Australia, learned a lot about New Zealand. Still have many friends from down there who, if I ever go back, will absolutely let me stay in their house just because of the relationship that we built there. And so that was, again, it all goes back to just like, if you find something that no one else wants to do and it's kind of risky, like, just try it, go figure it out, trust yourself that you can handle it.
So bring that all together for us. You SDR AE, you're now a CEO. What is it that enables you to be that CEO? And what additional skills have you learned since being that CEO?
Yeah, so from SDR to AE, I had a 4-year stint as a VP of sales at a couple small companies. And I think being at an early stage company allows you to be exposed to different aspects of the business: product, marketing, finance, engineering. And that's another thing that I would tell anybody who wants to become a CEO one day of their own startup: join an early stage company where you can immerse yourself in all those different aspects of the business, because it'll lay the groundwork for what you need to have a baseline understanding of when you do start your own company. Looking back, Steve Jobs' Stanford commencement speech, you can only connect the breadcrumbs kind of looking back. And so when I look back at kind of taking ownership of my education, taking risks, immersing myself in uncomfortable situations, being okay in an early stage scrappy startup where things change every single day, all those things kind of led to where I'm at today, where my wife every day is like, aren't you stressed? Aren't you nervous? No, because I kind of already experienced all those things.
Yeah.
And you just kind of learn to have some confidence in yourself that you'll figure it out along the way.
I mean, it's an amazing journey, Greg.
Thank you.
And I agree with you. There's some great learnings in there. I mean, what is there anything else that you would share with us in terms of? I kind of feel that there must be something else in there that you've learned along the way in terms of the bit about the CEO. You know, I learned about toxic. My big thing is about toxic people being a CEO and not allowing them into the company.
Yeah.
And I learned that the hard way.
Yeah. So I think I'll say this, Tim. There's and I put this in Slack the other day with my team. We had something go wrong with an integration.
Yeah.
And all 4 of my leaders in my company all tried to take responsibility for the failure of it, like within seconds.
Yeah.
And then like a couple hours later, all 4 of the same people did not want to take the credit for something that had gone right like the week before. And so I realized, like, find people who don't want the credit for anything but are willing to take responsibility for everything.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's one more thing. Surround yourself with those type of people and you can go very, very far.
I think the person that's willing to take risks and the person and creating a culture where people, it's okay if you're wrong or you experiment. We tried something the other day. We got approached by a company that does software a bit like this, Restream, but people pay you to attend and stuff. And we wanted to see what it was like. And they've got loads of yoga people on there and loads of people doing meditation and mental health, but there wasn't any business people. And so, you know, but the thing was that a colleague and I, as soon as I said to the colleague, will you be interested in coming on and actually doing a session? I said, nobody may come. And he said, I'd love to. I want to try it out. I want to see. Yeah. And part of that is that going back to the curiosity. You know, he said, we need to understand this stuff for our clients, because if they come to us and say, we're thinking of doing it, we can give them advice. But it was that willing to basically step up and say, I'm happy to make a mistake. And if no one comes, we're going to laugh about it. We try.
I think some of the best times in my life have been like, and my neighbor got me a shirt and it says, like, that sounds like a horrible idea. What time do you want me there? And so I think just take that approach in life, like, be curious, take risks. And, you know, as long as you're not, you know, playing with your life or endangering others or doing something you shouldn't be doing, like, that's what life is all about. Some of the best times in my life have been a result of some of the most hardest, toughest times in my life. And just got to kind of, as David Goggins would say, be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah. What's it? It's the one about, you know, you've got to get yourself out your comfort zone.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it is, what's the saying about whatever you want is actually the other side of the discomfort
comfort zone.
You've got to take yourself out your comfort zone. And you know, I do stuff all the time and I go, I really don't want to do this. I've got a little side project that I'm working on at the moment that I'm sharing with the team, and I'm basically running it, and I'm having to learn new things, and it is scariest because I'm standing there going, I don't know. And luckily I've got a good mentor that's actually helping me with it, who actually understands the technicalities of it. But it's scary because I don't understand this stuff.
I mean, I think going back to like my first investor pitch, I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I could argue I still don't know what I'm doing today, but I learned so much. And you realize, like, you're not getting shot at. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Someone's going to laugh at you or tell you no. Like, kind of have some perspective around the seriousness of what we're doing every single day.
Yeah.
And just try it, because even if it doesn't lend itself to success in your current role, there will be some application to that skill set or willingness to try new things throughout the rest of your career.
Yeah. Greg, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been fascinating.
My pleasure.
You know, you've been on an amazing journey. You're AE of Australia for 2 years. It's just blown my mind.
It was fun. It was fun.
I can imagine it was. I can imagine
was.
it was. Remind people where they can get hold of you.
Yeah, Greg Reffner on LinkedIn. Email me, Greg at Abstrakt with a K.ai. Happy to chat with anybody about kind of how to progress their career, answer any questions, or just talk about life in general.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on today, Greg, and
Been my
sharing that.
pleasure.